Okay, the tower might be behind us, but we've still got the best part of another 20 years of Stephen King work to cover. So let's get rocking and rolling again. Starting right now, here are 19 reasons to read The Colorado Kid. Tractor. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where I'm taking you through the works of Stephen King in chronological order and giving you 19 reasons to read every single one of his books. If that sounds like something you would like more of and you've not been here before, then hey, click around, look what else is on the channel. You might find something else of interest to you. And you know, if you do like it and you want to make sure you don't miss anything in the future, hit that subscribe button and you will all be sorted. So in this video we've reached 2005 and another example of Stephen King just doing something because, well, he felt like it. I'm talking of course about The Colorado Kid, a quirky little story that he put out on a quirky little imprint. So I'm going to give you 19 reasons to read this one, and as is the way now, I'm going to put all the spoilers at the end and I will give you warning when they're coming. So if you haven't read this one and you want to dip out before the spoilers come, you can still get at least a few of the 19 reasons why you might want to dip into this little tale. Sound good? Okay, let's jump into it. 3, 2, 1 and go. So this book was released by Hard Case Crime, a small little imprint who specialise in hard-boiled crime stories, both old and new. And when the first edition came out in 2005, it was initially released in paperback only. As a paperback fan, I wholeheartedly approve of this. Then, in 2019, an illustrated edition came out. And that really emphasises one of the most amazing and awesome things about the Hard Case Crime series is the pulpy painted front covers. Look at those beautiful things. So this didn't end up just being a one-time fling between King and Hard Case Crime. He's actually published 2 more books with them since, 2013's Joyland and 2021's Later. By the way, my review of Later from not long after the book came out is just there if you want to go and have a little look. It's spoiler free as well. So how did this all come about then? A literary giant and a tiny little imprint working together? Well, it actually came about pretty naturally. So Hard Case Crime founder Charles Ardé wrote to King wanting a blurb from him because, well, who wouldn't want a blurb from Stephen King? When Stephen King recommends a book, generally sales go pa-ping, pa-ping, pa-ping. So he wrote to King asking for the blurb. Well, he wrote to King's agent, and a few months later he got a reply saying, "Hey Charles, no, Stephen King won't write you a blurb. He's going to write you a novel instead." And with that, The Colorado Kid and this relationship between King and Hard Case Crime was born. Sorry, let's just take one more reason to let that sink in. Imagine that happening to your little imprint. Crazy. So fun fact for you, and definitely a motivation to read this one if you're just looking for something light and breezy. Until Elevation came out in 2018, The Colorado Kid was King's shortest novel. And if, like me, you think that the way that Elevation was marketed as a novel was more than a little bit cheeky, then we can still claim that The Colorado Kid is his shortest novel. So what's the hook of this one then? Well, we are on the island of Moose Lookit. Yeah, I know. And we're in the company of Dave Bowie, no, not that one, and Vince Teague, who are the 2 old geezers who basically run the Weekly Islander, the local rag, the local newspaper. So the story here is actually those 2 old farts telling a different story to their intern, Stephanie McCann. And that story is the story of the Colorado Kid, an unnamed man whose body was discovered on the island 25 years earlier with no identifying markers and a real air of mystery about how in the heck he ended up there. This ritual, this rite of passage of these old guys telling this young intern this story, letting them in on the full story that nobody else has heard, is their way of basically allowing... That's embarrassing. Okay, where were we? Rite of passage, yeah? These two old guys telling the story to Stephanie is her rite of passage into becoming a full-time member of the newspaper staff. And we're just flies on the walls, hearing the story and seeing this relationship blossom. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait, this is just two old guys telling a story. Well, yeah, it is. But bear in mind who's really telling the story. Stephen King's really telling the story. So it's a really good story. Oh yeah, in case you missed it, there's a character called Dave Bowie. Yeah, I know. Thankfully, he doesn't try and make any references to the musician, David Bowie. I'm also not going to try and make any references to him because I don't really like him and aren't really familiar with his work. But let's just leave it at that. Don't at me, okay? Or at me. I don't care. So this book is a pretty lightweight one. I've already covered how it's basically his shortest novel. And for some people, that's a problem. But I think you need to take into account the context of where King was at when this came out. He'd just finished The Dark Tower, for God's sake. So actually, having something like this as a palate cleanser to reset and then get yourself ready for the next chunk of his career where he does go into some bigger and heftier pieces, I think makes a lot of sense. So the big factoid that gets bandied about there when you look up stuff around the Colorado Kid is weirdly to do with Starbucks. Now, a USA Today review of this novel pointed out that there was no Starbucks in Denver in 1980, which King states as fact in the story. Now, this got so much traction that King actually ended up putting a statement out about it on his website, and turns out it wasn't a mistake. King actually said that the constant readers of his Dark Tower series may realise this is not a continuity error, but in fact a clue. By the way, if you're looking for more Dark Tower stuff, I've got a complete guide to it right there. So another fun fact for you. An advance copy of The Colorado Kid was stolen and sold on eBay for $1,623, which is particularly hilarious because hard case crime books, one of their selling points is that they are cheap. They're generally put out at about $5.99. So, hey kids, crime doesn't pay. Although, I suppose it kind of does because the guy made a lot of money. Let's rephrase that. Don't steal books, you pricks. No, not a tractor. Not a tractor. A septic tank from a company called Success. I mean, it's a good name, but get out my videos. So, keeping a theme from his previous book, in the afterword to The Colorado Kid, King admits that people will either love or hate the ending, and there probably won't be much middle ground. Now, no spoilers here, but I really like it. Talking spoilers, it's time that we went into spoiler territory, so if you need to leave now, please do, and I will see you soon. So why was that ending such a divisive one? Because there are no answers. Nothing is resolved. It's 200 pages for basically a shrug. It's great. So I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that actually this ending of Colorado Kid makes it sort of a distant cousin of From a Buick 8. Both of those books are looking for answers and neither of those books really find them. Now, The Colorado Kid is not as strong a story as that weird little tale about that weird little car, but it's a really solid, breezy read, and it's just one that you definitely should give it a go if you haven't already. So why is the dead guy so mysterious then, even when they manage to identify him, which they do about a year after his body is discovered? Well, there's just a lot going on that isn't really sitting right. There doesn't seem to be any way in which he could have made it from Colorado, where he was last seen alive, to the coast of Maine where he died, in the amount of time between those two sightings, or the sighting of him alive and the discovery of his body and when he died. It just doesn't add up. Also, he was found with a pack of cigarettes on him, even though his autopsy showed that he was not a smoker, and he had a Russian coin in his pocket. Weird. Another mystery surrounds the first edition of this one. Specifically, this woman on the front of it. Who is she? I've read this twice and there's no woman like that in the story. Is it just a sexy lady with legs and chest on display to try and sell a book? Surely a book publisher wouldn't do that, would they? So what I really like about the ending is that Dave and Vince go through this story with Stephanie, but then actually do accept her as part of the team. They acknowledge at the end that up until them telling that story, They were the only two people alive who knew the whole shebang, and now she does. She's carrying on that legacy. She is part of the team. She has been accepted. It's very sweet. More than anything, this is just a fun read. It's light, it doesn't outstay its welcome, it'll keep you entertained for a few hours. And like I said earlier, it's definitely worth it. And if you've read it once before, read it again. I enjoyed it way more second time around. So finally, remember how this is his shortest novel? Well, you know, size isn't everything. Despite being his shortest novel, this provided the admittedly loose inspiration for the sci-fi series Haven, which started in 2010 and ran for 5 seasons. No, I've not watched them yet, although I'm sure I will because I'm a glutton for punishment. You guessed it. So there we go, 19 reasons to read The Colorado Kid. Let me know what you think of this one if you've read it in the comments. I'd love to hear whether you're a fan or whether it just does nothing for you. And if you've not stumbled across this one yet, do seek it out and give it a read. I think you might like it. If you enjoyed this video, then click around the rest of my channel. There's loads more for you to discover. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more in the future. We've still only just reached 2005, so we've got a long way to go yet. And if you want to chat King on Instagram, I'm at Dave Musson, always happy to talk there in my DMs. Why not come and say hi? So up next, we're going into the first of 2 Stephen King books from 2006. And let's just say that first one is not particularly good. Join me for that?